So, since we're talking about Serie A, of course, I'm talking about Italy. I know I want to get more in depth talking about Juventus this season because they look uncomfortable, they look indecisive, they look really unconvincing under Andrea Pirlo so far. So that begs the question, really, can Andrea Pirlo get a decent season out of Juventus in his first proper managerial season? Like, the guy is learning the trade basically as he goes with Juventus. We saw him play with the 3-5-2, 3-4-3. We saw him revert to a 4-4-2 at certain points. He wasn't really fixed on a certain formation to start with this season. He didn't look comfortable in more than just one match in the Serie A and in the Champions League. He was trailing against Ferencvaros for all I know in the Champions League for a while. So that really begs the question, can Pirlo cost Juventus the title? Will Pirlo's inexperience be hindering a club that has a lot of potentially good players? And of course, on top of them, they had Cristiano Ronaldo, depending if he stays or not, who knows. There's rumours around he's going to be leaving the club because of the high wages that he's receiving, and the club can't afford that anymore. So, talking about Andrea Pirlo, the guy was a great player for Juventus, a legend in terms of playing. He one of the best that ever stepped on the pitch, that's for sure, undisputed. But as a coach, as a manager, does he have the credentials now? Does he have the credentials to lead Juventus to a ninth Scudetto in a row? Which seems, very likely. We thought that it would be likely, really, before the resurgence of AC Milan, but with AC Milan now back in the picture, I think they might present a serious challenge for Juventus. Not necessarily a guaranteed fact that they will lose a Scudetto. It might not happen at the end. They might run out the gas, really, and out the steam. But certainly Pirlo's inexperience is hindering Juventus. It's really not helping. Not fixing, not having a proper plan, really. Once he plays with 5 in the midfield, once he plays with 3, it seems like he is the inexperienced version of Maurizio Sarri, I would say, really. I mean, inexperienced just because he's not that old in terms of coaching. He was supposed to be coaching the under-23 side for Juventus before he was called up to coach the senior team. For me, Andrea Pirlo needs to focus more on getting a proper plan, getting a fixed, stable plan, a fixed and stable formation for his side, and to get the players familiar with playing with that formation. Because changing from 3-5-2 to a 4-3-3 to a 4-2-3-1 to a 4-4-2 is not easy. It is one of the hardest things in football because it needs players that are strong mentally to adapt and tactically apt to understand the formation, to understand their roles in each formation. It needs flexible players, and I don't think Juventus have these flexible players, more or less, really. I think aside from Paulo Dybala, pretty much, and Cristiano Ronaldo, I don't think that there is a lot of, polyvalent players who can play multiple positions on the pitch and feel comfortable in it. Probably Cuadrado would be another option. He can play right back, he can play right wing back or right winger. But aside from that, I don't think there's a big sort of spine for Juventus. There's not a fixed spine. Once he can use to play with Arthur and McKennie and Ramsey in the midfield, once he takes off one of these 3 and replaces him with someone else, he's not really stable in terms of choosing his personnel, which is one of the biggest factors that might hinder the club this season in their progress in Serie A. Not being effective when they need to be effective, players still trying to get into the team and trying to adapt to the style of Juventus, to the mentality, to the whole identity of Juventus, such as Federico Chiesa, Dejan Kulusevski, who have been decent, but not exactly hitting the ground running. They haven't been the best versions of themselves. So, overall, Andrea Pirlo is still learning, still has a lot to do with Juventus. He's not exactly doing the worst job in the world for an inexperienced manager, for a brand new manager, really entering the world of managing for the first time and entering from the big door, really entering with Juventus, a big club in Europe and one of the biggest favourites to win the Champions League in the last 5 or 6 years. So Andrea Pirlo he's not helping himself as much as the players are not helping him by being ineffective. It's a mixture of both. So from what it stands, Juventus need to do a lot more than just, be ineffective and try to slow walk and sleepwalk their way into winning another Scudetto, because that is not going to happen this season. I believe it since last season that I predicted it and really expected it, that the other Serie A teams are going to be more alert this season and try to lose as less points as they can, because they will not afford to drop points in those sort of affordable games and the easy games against the bottom table or the low mid-table sides in Serie A, because that is not going to give them advantage when it comes to finishing top of the table or even winning the Serie A for the case of some teams like Inter or Lazio or Napoli or even Milan this season, who are entering as strong leading horses. This might be their season, really. Again, it all depends on what Pirlo is going to do for Juventus. Can he do the job? Can he take Juventus to the next level? Can he find that winning combination, winning formula in himself, fix a stable formation that gets the best out of all the players, including Ronaldo, because at some points he might be at the heart of certain problems for the club? Overall, we'll wait and see, and we'll try to figure out what Pirlo's identity for Juventus might be over the next couple of weeks, but certainly we will need to see more effectiveness from Juventus and from Pirlo as well if they're going to get anything out of this season.